Hello, and welcome to Football Thoughts 360. Champions League draw has been made so far last week, Friday. 32 teams, now shut down to 8 teams. And I can tell you all the big teams are there already. We've got Arsenal, who will play Bayern Munich on the 9th of April here in Emirates in London. And of course, we've got Real Madrid playing City, third time in a row. Can you believe it, guys? Real Madrid will play City at Madrid. That night, I'm sure, is going to be one of the most beautiful night of football matches. On the 10th as well, we've got Atletico Madrid playing Borussia Dortmund. And then on the same night, we've got Paris Saint-Germain in Paris playing Barcelona. Who can believe these 8 teams so far advanced to the quarterfinals? It couldn't be much sweeter and hotter for football lovers around the world. But today, we're going to look at the games as well. We're going to look at the chances of these teams and who stands a chance of progressing to the next stage. Later in the show, we're going to be talking about Kobbie Mainoo, the young Manchester United 18-year-old boy who's been called to the English setup now. Some are saying he's too young. Some are also arguing the fact that he's got a talent, is showing a lot of maturity in his game so far this season. After he recovered from an early injury in the early part of the season, he's been consistent so far and he's showing massive talent. Well, today to help me talk about the games and look at these games, I've got a football enthusiast here. It's called Ken. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, great. Ken, let's look at the game. Arsenal, Bayern Munich. The history between these two teams, remember the last 2 times they met, Arsenal literally got battered.
That's true.
So what do you think? What's your view about these games so far?
After looking at the last 2 times those 2 teams have played, I think we have to look at the improvement of the Arsenal team. I think towards the last Champions League game, you can tell the decline of Arsenal in terms of the way they've been performing. But under Mikel Arteta, they've been very good and they've been improving on a constant basis. I believe it will be more of an open game depending on how Arsenal approaches the game. If they approach the game in the way they've played most of the games this season, which is more fearless, open, and they believe in themselves, I think they'll be better off than the last couple of games. And at the moment, Bayern Munich are not the same Bayern Munich we're used to having.
But they do have the character, though. We know that Bayern, these important games, they don't usually play with these games. These are Champions League clubs. They've got a history. Yes, I agree. They're not really in great form. They're struggling defensively as a team progressing. When even in transition they're struggling, but you can't dispute the fact that it's Bayern Munich. They've got the character.
Like I said, Bayern Munich is one of the best teams in Champions League. We know that they have the history behind them, and that's why I said is the approach which Arsenal approaches the game, because we know Bayern Munich are more likely going to go to win the game.
Absolutely.
So the best way for Arsenal to progress in this group, to progress in this Champions League quarterfinal, is basically by going out and not being afraid, because you're playing one of the best teams in Europe, and they might be poor all season and turn up on that day, and they will be phenomenal. And we know Bayern Munich has a few of the youngest talents in the world that are amazing.
Yeah. Can we not talk about that game and not talk about Harry Kane? Man, this season he's been scoring some amazing goals. He's over 30 plus goals now. And he knows Arsenal very well. He's an old boy of Tottenham as well. And he'll be going for it, wouldn't he?
I think that's one of the X factor in that game, because I believe that in order for them to win that game, they have to shut Harry Kane down. And I think with 2 former players from England, I think Harry Kane and Gnabry, I think it will be quite a difficult game for Arsenal to keep Bayern Munich out. So Arsenal has to be on the offensive and Arsenal has to score. But like I said, if I have to pick, I know I always go with Bayern Munich because they seem to always deliver when the time is right. But I think Arsenal has the talent. Arsenal has nothing to lose in that game. It's the second time in a long time they've been in the Champions League. Yeah.
14 years.
14 years. So 14 I feel you have nothing to lose and to go out and express yourself and enjoy yourself, because you're playing one of the biggest games in their careers. Most of the Arsenal players are playing one of the biggest games in their career, except a few, or 1 or 2 who have won the Champions League. The rest haven't been there before. So you expect them to go there, have fun, attack the game, and see what happens at the end of the 2 legs. It's a 2-leg game, so there's a chance if you play with the belief, you might come out, you might do something. So
No. That's actually a very. But I mean, I look at Arsenal's game so far this season, and I just think that progressively Arsenal has been playing very good football. You know, the way they press, the way they control games now, and all the players seem to be in great form at the moment. You've got Odegaard, you've got Rice, you know, you've got Saka, you've got Havertz who's come back to form, and Jesus, Thomas Partey's recovered. So Arsenal's a team, I think, from the bench and the squad looks very, very decent to compete against Bayern Munich. But of course, you know, like we went back and said, you know, Bayern's character can always show up in these games. So as to Arsenal, I do think the energy and gradually the maturity is coming to the side. And I think this game could be one of the most important games of their lives. After 14 years, coming back into the quarterfinals stage again, you know, it could be that moment for Arsenal. But before we go on, let's look at third time in a row, Real Madrid, Manchester City. You know, you know these two teams, they're the best of friends now in the Champions League. They play each other every season, or for the last 2 seasons. And in the third season running, they're going to play themselves again. Now, let's look at this particular encounter. Madrid, City. First leg at Bernabeu. Second leg at Etihad. Let's look at the first leg.
okay, these are two. Real Madrid is one of the biggest, if not the biggest team in the world. We all know this. And you're playing at the biggest stadium in the world. So for me, until that game is over, you can't count any of those two teams out because they're one of the 2 best teams in the world. If you look at it, everyone says Man City is one of the best teams in the world right now, if not the best team in the world. And Real Madrid, literally, we own the Champions League. So it is, I believe, it is a game born for stars to perform, and we're gonna see excellence in that game, and that's.
Can we look at the dynamics of that game? I mean, you've got Haaland for City. You've got Kevin De Bruyne for City. You look at the connection between Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland. You look at the way this season City's been playing, the way they move the ball around, and the way they attack as well. You know, as a City team, you look at them from defense, the transition, you know, how they move. Now you look at Madrid, obviously not a typical number 9 striker in the team now. You know, you got Joselu, but you can't bank too much on Joselu, can you? And then you're looking at a player like Vinicius Jr. In the last few matches, he's been in great form. Rodrigo, yes, he hasn't been scoring a lot of goals, but Champions League nights are made for players like that. You look at Toni Kroos, his ball distribution, similar to Kevin De Bruyne. They play 4-4-2, you know, more or less 4-4-2, but in a diamond shape kind of movement. Sometimes they can switch to a 4-3-3. For sure, Madrid is not going to defend against City. For sure, City is not going to defend against Madrid. They're all going to play an open game. So when you look at these dynamics and these movements of the quality of players, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham, Toni Kroos, Modric, you know, Tchouaméni, Camavinga. You look at all these quality of players. Then you come back to City, Bernardo Silva, Rodri. You know, you look at the goalkeeper, Akanji. You look at all these players in that team. Now, if you pay a very close attention to this game, what do you think this points might sway to? Haaland, don't forget that. Boy, he's on fire, man.
He's a natural goal scorer. You know, if you give him half a chance or a chance, you know the ball is going back at the net. So we know this already. And for me, I think that game is, I think based on both teams and based on the quality on the pitch, I think some people might say it's a 70-30 for Man City, but I don't say it like that because I think it's a game where, like you say, stars are born on that night. So I think it's a game where we have to, before we even go any further, you have to remember that they have one of the best defensive midfielders in the world, Man City.
Yeah, Rodri.
And he controls games very well and sets the pace of the way they want to play. So it's a hard game to call because it's Madrid, it's Man City, and the talents are on show. So you will see where 2 of the greatest football managers are trying to outsmart each other on the pitch.
Tactically as well.
Yeah, so you are going to see a very tactical game. You're going to see players because this is the game. Like I always say to people, this is a game where players dream of.
Of course, beautiful nights, isn't it?
Beautiful nights, because they want to knock out the
Mm.
next big team next to them. So they this is the day they dream for. So once the draw is made, I remember, is it Tony Kroos or someone else said in Real Madrid team that this is who we wanted in the draw. We wanted Man City.
Yeah.
Because for Madrid, they test themselves and
With
every season, every
against
games.
the big teams.
Because on little teams, you can see players sometimes sluggishly pass the ball, they move the ball around, very relaxed. But once they play big teams, you see the pressure kicks in. Then you see who can stand. And you said Jude Bellingham, you could see that he dreams for moments like this. He wants to play in big games like this. This is what he was born for. So Phil Foden too is good. So
not exactly Foden as well.
So we know we're about to see one of the best games this season has to offer. So it's going to be a very tactical game, but I can't call it at the moment.
Nah, it's very quite close, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will say they'll go Man City, but I think you go Man City on paper. But if you look at the game and the players on pitch on display, if all these players are healthy and
they're fit,
they're all informed the same way,
it's a very close
will be
call.
a very close call. And I don't think I can make a call on that game.
But there are a lot of duels in that game, We're looking at Tchouaméni, Rodri. We're looking at Kevin De Bruyne and Cruz. You're looking at Vinicius, probably with a player like what's his name, the right back,
Kai Walker.
You're looking at that duel on that side as well. So there's too much going on in that particular game. So I just think that, well, in the end, it's going to be a night of football. Of course, Madrid will try to shut the stadium up. They'll close the upper terrace to kind of open up the sound. And then, intimidate City in there to be able to.
I think something that a lot of people tend to forget is that we have two of our main defenders out.
Yep.
Out for the season.
Alaba is out.
And
then Militao is also out.
So, and our goalkeeper is out of the season.
Courtois is out. He's just had a meniscus injury on the right as well.
Right. So
he's gone for a couple of months.
Yeah. So we both have players that are from the first team that are out, but we have players that have stepped up and are performing right now. So I think you still have to look at who's going to be the main man to stop Haaland. So,
well, I think this season for Madrid, one of the best players for Madrid obviously has been what's his name, the defender, Rudiger. Rudiger's been one of the best players, not just in defense, but one of the best players of the squad. He's actually settled down a bit. He's playing his football, and I think he of course, he has the mentality.
Yes,
he's really stepped up his game and moving the ball. But before we go to we progress, let's look at the game between Atletico Madrid and Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund, they are one of the teams that sometimes you just think and believe they're gonna make that line, but then just before the finish line, they seem to drag their feet a little bit back. They've sold a lot of players, but progressively, season after season, they seem to get to almost this stage of the tournament. Now, let's look at this part of Borussia Dortmund against an Atletico team that you don't even know what to expect, whether they're going to turn up on the night or not. Atletico is always a team that has different variations. You don't know what's going to happen.
I think it depends on the away game against Atletico Madrid. I think that draw is based on the away game and only the away game, because I feel in the whole season, Barcelona has been the only team that's been to the Atletico Stadium.
Yeah, Metropolitano.
And won.
Yeah.
So the away form has been shambolic, sort of to say.
Yep.
It's either 50-50, they either get a result or they don't.
Yeah.
But at home, they've been brilliant. But
they're solid.
After the last Champions League game they played, Barcelona came to town, and you could tell the impact of the Champions League was taken out. Their energy, their strength, their motivation was not there when they played Barcelona. And I think a few players were rested. Griezmann was rested. So you can tell they were very tired. But I still believe at home, Atletico will have the upper hand against them. But I believe the away game might be more open. And if Borussia Dortmund can beat them away at home, then they have a chance of qualifying. But like I said, it's an Atletico Madrid game. Like you also said, that it is a you don't know what you can expect of them.
Absolutely.
So
the quality as well of the players.
they have good
The
quality
Griezmann
players.
and
Yeah, they have good quality
Morata
players.
and all those players, they've got the quality.
They have the quality
Yeah.
to kill off any team. So I believe that if they win at home, it will be difficult to overcome it.
Very difficult.
Yeah. So like I said, whoever wins the away game against, if Dortmund goes to Atletico Madrid and has a good game, then you more likely know that they will be able
They'll
to
have a chance playing back home in Germany.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest nights obviously will be Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona. Of course, Mbappe, we know he's coming to Madrid at the moment. You know, all the indications, everything indicates deal is done. For sure, he's coming to Madrid next season. His first leg obviously will be in Paris. His second leg will be in Barcelona. Would that be the baptism for Mbappe in Barcelona? Is it going to be a villain or a hero in Barcelona? But let's look at the two teams. I mean, you look at Paris Saint-Germain with Catalan coach, you know, Luis Enrique, or you look at a Spanish coach. He knows the team very well. He's managed the team before. Barcelona hasn't really changed its model in terms of football that much. All the coaches that has come after Pep kind of sort of touched it a little bit here and there. It's always been a 4-3-3, just a little bit variations here and there. So it hasn't really changed much. But then there's a new youthful energy that's coming to the team, the Yamals of this world, Yamin of this world, and you know all these young players that have come through. And then Pedri's injured now, isn't he? He's out. He's out at the moment. Gavi's out as well. So with these type of players, would that dynamism play a big factor in looking at these games ahead? Because obviously it's Paris Saint-Germain. This will be the last shot for Mbappe with PSG. He has to do it now or never.
Never. Yeah, I think it's a very open game, that game. And I feel the quality on display in that game shows a lot of youthfulness, and you can see the future of both teams. I think PSG has gone for youth by buying young players, and I think Barcelona has always developed players from youth and brought them into the team. But at the moment, you can see that most of the young players are injured.
Yeah,
but then they also have young players that they've integrated into the team. So I think it will be his last shot at winning the Champions League for PSG, Mbappe, and it's Mbappe, so you know. He has to have a bad game once the whistle is blown. Before the whistle is blown, his game can always be
exactly.
He can change the game at any moment. If you go back to the World Cup final, you don't score a hat trick in the World Cup final.
No, that was a sterling performance.
Yeah, except
big performance.
You know, but then there's Messi there, so you realize that there was somebody else there on the pitch that day. But if Messi was not on that pitch that day, I think he would have been over for Argentina. But like I said, my whole belief is that this is his last one chance, and I think Barcelona are not at the best. I think in terms of players on the pitch, you have Ike Gundogan.
Yeah,
you know he can dictate the game. You know he can run the game the way he wants it to be played. We have Frankie de Jong. So I think in terms of the midfield battle, I think Barcelona could
actually dominate
the midfield. But I just worry if PSG can get hold of the game by Mbappe, then I think there is a chance for PSG. But if you know, I think that's their one chance to go for him to win the Champions League for them, and I think that's his dream of winning the Champions League for PSG. So
absolutely,
I see it being a very good game for PSG.
Do you think, or do you see a similarity in terms of approach when you look at how Paris Saint-Germain set us up? Because usually they set up 4-3-3, you know, and Barcelona sets up similar 4-3-3. So if both teams decide to go, of course, Barcelona will go quite an open football. And in Paris as well, they're going to counter on Mbappe's pace, his movement, his dribbles, and, you know, playing behind the balls. Lewandowski, obviously, similar. You know, he will be more of that number 9 that they will try to find as well. So I just think that game is going to be very, very open. It will boil down to little details, you know, making sure you cover the grounds and putting the finishing touches to the final balls and stuff like that. And that's where the likes of Mbappe, Lewandowski, those type of quality players will come in. Yes, they signed Colomwani, but I haven't seen too much of these players, and I don't know if on that night they will turn up on that night to actually put Paris Saint-Germain through. But all Barcelona, you know what?
I think it's for me. I think I'll get worried about their midfield, the PSG
Yeah.
midfield. That's where I get worried about because I feel, their upfront play is very good in terms of they can always change the upfront by bringing in Bacola.
Yeah, Bacola, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's quite good. They could also bring Asensio if he's not injured. I think last time I saw I'm not sure if he's still injured at the moment.
Marco Asensio, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they can always change the game. They always players up front to change the game, but I just feel like I don't see their midfield are dominating the likes of Ike Gundogan, Frenkie de Jong, and
that
some of the
is going
Barcelona
to be
squad.
some good midfield to come up against, you know.
So that's my biggest worry for PSG because I feel to win the Barcelona game, because I watched them against Atletico Madrid last game and it was quite difficult for Atletico to get hold of the game in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think with Barcelona, if you watch their history, they always love to
control the ball
from the middle because once they control the ball from the middle, they pull you out of positions at all times. And once you're out of position, the strikers can do the damage. So I always feel that in order, because I've watched PSG a couple of times this season, and the midfield has not been very strong for me. And I remember when I watched them against Newcastle, I think the lineup he put were not for high pressing team like Newcastle were not very good enough. So I think the second game he did a bit better by the substitution. So I think he knows what Barcelona plays about because he's coached Barcelona before.
Absolutely.
So he knows what Xavi is like because we know Xavi
tweak the tactics a little bit. He has to tweak it.
He has to tweak it because he knows Xavi loves to control the ball in the middle.
Exactly.
Everybody knows Xavi. That's his favorite thing to do. And obviously the players that he knows that could have done that very well with the likes of Pedri and injured. So at the moment, but I believe it would be a midfield battle. Definitely. So I think once the midfield, whoever controls the midfield has an upper hand in the game. Okay. But like I said, you just have to shut Mbappe out for 90 minutes. And once the whistle is blown, then we know the game is over. Mbappe is shut out. But if you don't shut it out for 90 minutes,
that's it.
We know he can do wonders whenever he makes goals out of nothing. That's the biggest
quality player.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue because he can start the game quiet for 60, 70 minutes and still hurt you by the time the game is over. So when you have a player like that, you want to make sure the whole game is controlled and there's no mistakes, there's no errors, and whoever creates an error will be punished from him because they also got Lewandowski in Barcelona.
I mean, Lewandowski, a very goal scoring machine. Anyway, but we've got a final thing to talk about today. We're looking at young Kobbie Mainoo, 18 years of age. He just started his senior career with United, started on the wrong foot, had a lot of injuries, and he came back and 18 years, is already bossing the midfield, controlling games, starting to score goals. It almost feels like a complete midfielder or modern midfielder, quote unquote. He would attack, he would defend, he would stay in the box to box as well sometimes. And sometimes he's a bit offensive. So he reads the game very well for an 18-year-old who can actually find himself in the right spots, sometimes in the box as well. It's quite interesting. Now, finally, Kobbie Mainoo, 18 years, called up to English national team. The debate, a lot of people are saying, well, he's too young, he should have been given some time before he's called. There's also another school of thought that, his parents are from Ghana. And there was a word going around in Ghana that they might probably Ghana wanted to call him. So could that be the haste of Southgate calling him, giving him a senior call-up just to shut Ghana off from his mind and his way to keep him playing?
I think first thing first, I will address the age age issue. I think we can't go by ages no more in football because I think Mbappe won the World Cup at what age?
He was just about 17, 18.
18. Some of the best players in the world have played at the World Cup at a very young age. Yeah. So I don't believe age has anything to do with it. I think it's the caliber of the player, the mindset of the player, the ability, the skills they possess. And if you look at United, he's one of the bright shining lights in United. And I feel like, new striker.
Hodgland.
Hodgland, Garnacho and Mainoo. These have been the three black eyes that they have in United. And I believe he deserves the call-up because he has performed.
But McTominay is scoring as well.
I don't believe the goal. This is the difference. I think it's not about the goals for me for a midfielder. I think, yes, you expect a midfielder to score goals and to create chances, but I feel it's what he does in the midfield, he controls the midfield. He plays against teams, against players that you think will be able to bully him around the ball. But his possession of the ball, the way he controls the ball, the way he covers the ball, the way he covers in possessions when he's not with the ball.
Composure as well.
Very good.
For an 18-year-old.
For a kid. We should not just say 18 years. Let's say for a kid.
For a kid, yes.
For a kid.
He has a certain composure that he brings onto the ball.
I did not realize that he was that young, actually.
Yeah.
When I saw him play the first time, I did not realize he was that young. I had to go back to look how young he was. And then I realized, I said, oh my God, he's that young. But he's just, these players can play football because it's a gift they have. This ability they have. They are not trained for it. They can control. I watched his game when he came on against the Wolves or Bournemouth, one of them. And his control of the game at that time of the game was phenomenal. You're just watching a kid play football in the midst of, let's say, grown men.
Yeah. And
he was not afraid to showcase himself. He was not afraid to move the ball, to take the ball from the middle, to run deep down, to run to the middle. He was not afraid of any of those things. And when a player plays that way, you know he deserves to be called up to England, because you cannot play with that confidence and then do not get rewarded because you're too young. So why are you performing at that age?
Amazing. Anyway, guys, we're almost at the end of our podcast today, but our next topic, our next podcast, we'll be talking about the striker issue with England. Now, we'll be looking at. We have Oli Watkins in great form, Hurricane, of course, the main leading striker. Of course, we have Ivan Toney and a bunch of all these strikers that are doing well for England. Who should England pick up for the Euros come this summer? Who should England go for? Of course, you need about 3-4 strikers to take them to. So we're talking about that in our next podcast. But do make time with us, and please do subscribe to Football Thoughts 360. Do subscribe and join us. Listen to us on all platforms, all streaming platforms. We're there. And so it's been great talking to you, King. And,
thank you for having me.
Sure. And then our next topic, next edition, will be talking about who should England pick for the strikers role. About a bunch of them, all of them scoring. Oli Watkins, man, he's in great form.
They're all doing well, so it's going to be a very difficult pick Euros for him. Who he's going to pick, because they've all had a good season. I know Ivan Toney has been out for a while, but
and he's back.
He's back and he's scoring. Oli Watkins has been very prolific this season, so it will be a very tough call for who he's going to take. But obviously, we know Harry Kane has scored 31 goals. He's broken the record for
broken the record
season.
And he's back.
So it's going to be quite a good selection problem for Gareth Southgate. But he has a lot of problems to pick who he's going to pick. So because he has a lot of players that have delivered this season, and this is so far one of his toughest decisions to make. So we will see who he ends up going to do.
Absolutely. All right, guys, it's been great having you. Please do listen to us and subscribe to the channel, Football Thoughts 360. My name is Kojo Ejejima. Thank you, guys.